Hey, Nam.
What's up, Jeremy?
Man, it has been a cool minute since we returned back with some new episodes. But you, a while back, before starting this, that you said, let's do some fun episodes. Let's do some fun stuff. And I was like, I have a good idea. There's a project I always wanted to do where I wanted to do like some casting, our dream cast, basically, of shows that we want to see movies or ideas that we would love to see become movies and whatnot. And I decided that the first one I want to do is based on the 1960s show that is the Jetsons. And I love the Jetsons. I think it's so funny because when I was younger, I always believed that all the cartoons were like created the time that I was born, which I was way off on all that stuff. But you're looking at the Hanna Barbera cartoons that brought you like the Flintstones, Yogi Bear, all that fun jazz. You can look it all up. And the Jetsons is the one that stood out to me because it was that whole like the year 2000. We're supposed to be having flying cars, living in the sky, all this imagination. And here we are in 2022, and none of that is not even close to where we're at. And actually, now looking at it, it's kind of scary that if we all lived in like sky high buildings and whatnot, and we have to rely on nothing but flying cars, don't know what the bottom is like. It's probably just like an abyss or something like that. But anyways, I like this show. It was basically just a family just going on with their lives in this sci-fi world, and it brought us from what has made it interesting was this TV show kind of split. Like it was in the 60s and then it kind of stopped and then it came back like in the 80s. And you can definitely tell from the difference of where the older one felt more, I don't know, a little bit more I guess compared to that one, more adult per se. I guess like they would deal with more family issues and stuff like that. And then the 80s one, it was a lot more goofier, just more goofy. Like what crazy thing is George or whoever character is going to do next. And
Okay.
I don't know how far you got into the show because you told me that it's on HBO Max as we speak, and a lot of Hanna-Barbera cartoons have been returning on there and whatnot. But what are your thoughts of the Jetsons being about a father, a wife, a daughter, and a son and a dog just living their life in the job, and they're just taking it day by day with all this stuff, and also they managed to afford a maid. Even though I think, what would you consider them like middle class? I guess would they be middle class people or would they be high class with the robot Rosie and whatnot? What's your thoughts?
That was quite literally the very first episode of the Jetsons was the whole maid thing, whether they could afford her, which was crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Funny that you actually mentioned that. It was interesting, the Jetsons. I remember growing up watching it, and I think it was because it was such a contrast to like the Flintstones.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hanna-Barbera, like, during that time for me, when I was like that young, I thought like Disney and Hanna-Barbera were like the only two people that ever made cartoons ever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I grew up and I started seeing like Tom and Jerry and Nickelodeon. And I got mostly into Nickelodeon stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a fond memory of the Jetsons, especially. I can't really remember if it was after school or it was more just being able to see it on TV on like Saturday morning cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
But it had that kind of, well, I guess every cartoon we watch nowadays is old, but that kind of old feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I mean, for us, because you guys can't. I mean, for people that's within our age range, which is what mid to late 30s to 40s, high definition was not a thing. Like
No, not at all. Not at
the
all.
the whole like crystal clear like colors and everything like that. It's just not the same. So it felt like an older style cartoon for us, and I thought it was really wholesome. I enjoyed it from the episodes I remember watching. When you actually brought this project up to me, I was thinking to myself, "Oh my god, like, do I remember anything?" And what's so bad about it is I don't remember. Like, there wasn't anything that really stuck out to me, which is sad because I know I liked it,
Mm-hmm.
but there wasn't anything that really stuck out to me as far as like episodes or something I remember. But then again, that goes for a lot of the cartoons I watch too as well.
It's
So
it.
I can't. I can't really say anything about it. I mean, like Yogi Bear, any of the Hanna Barbera stuff. Like I vaguely remember anything specific other than just remembering the actual show, watching it, and enjoying it, and that was it.
I was gonna say that I think anybody that forgot about it will never forget the iconic music, because I think the music, the intro was the one like if you heard it now, people would automatically know what it is. But I don't remember too much about the show, but that theme song was so memorable, kind of like how the Flintstones made their theme song memorable. I think a lot of Hanna-Barbera's cartoons intros were very iconic, but not.
Wait, hold up. The Flintstones intro. I don't know. Why don't you drop a few beats for us on the Flintstones thing for the audience there, so they can remember, because I can't remember.
Oh, real talk?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. Okay, yeah. So,
now that I think about it, it's kind of the same as the Jetsons, right?
The difference is the Jetsons has a long intro, and then they say, "Here's George Jetson," and then it's a long intro, a long music, and then it brings, Judy and all them intro and all that kind of stuff. I don't think the intro of the Flintstones actually introduce the characters. They just say, "Hey, here's a family, and there's a story about the family." The Jetsons kind of talked about like, "Hey, here's every individual one," and their little intro, as they're flying through the sky, and then they're just dropping everybody off to their destinations, from Judy from high school, Elroy to elementary school, Jane going shopping, and then George going to work and whatnot. Granted,
hold up real quick before you continue. Keep that thought in mind. All the hate comments that you guys want to drop because I forgot what the Flintstones intro song is, just hit it below. Put @InGameBoss. And the fact that DuckTales was the greatest intro song there was anyway, so nobody needs to know what the Flintstones was. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
I think, but I think it is interesting that Flintstones became. Of course, I think they came before the Jetsons, of course, but the Flintstones had so much going for them. Even from the crossover from other shows, even there was a Jetsons and a Flintstones crossover. They had 2 live action movies. All that stuff, like with John Goodman and a bunch of other actors and whatnot. But the Jetsons never really got that shine. They only got like an animated movie, in 1990, Jetsons the movie. And maybe they got like a little bit of a special. And I think they did something with like a WWE with the Jetsons or something special like a couple years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say that was the resurgence of the Jetsons, right? Because for a while they disappeared. I mean, from the first movie that they made, and then they disappeared, and they came back with the WWE collaboration.
Yeah, and like all the Hanna-Barberas, like those cartoons never get a proper ending. It just stops when they're just done. But for this long, you would think Jetsons should be overdue for a movie, at least by now. I mean, we're kind of, in the past the year 2000, 22 years after 2000, basically. And we haven't had a movie where the sci-fi family have came into, to the silver screen. And with all the technology we're at right now, it'd be great to see what they can do with this. The tough part about it would it be more of kind of like a more teenish kind of film, or would it be more of the goofy kiddish film, right? Because we grew up with the Jetsons, so to me it makes sense to make it more for our audience, both for the kids. But maybe they can kind of balance both, because you have Elroy and Astro and all them, and then you have George and Jane and whatnot. So before we start, what about you though? Like, where do you see kind of like the direction? Do you see the Jetsons? Do you see it more for the kids, or do you see it more for us? What are your thoughts?
I think there are a million different writers out there in Hollywood that have done such a great job of being able to make shows that are so geared towards kids, but yet very interesting and very adult-like. So I think, honestly, that if you're going to attack anything when it comes to the Jetsons movies, that you make it geared towards more kids naturally. But I think you have some adult humor in there. And and I think that kind of goes down our list once we get to it, our casting list too, because there's going to be some adult humor there,
Yeah.
but I think there's a bunch of talent out there that'll be able to make that work, and I think for the most part, it just goes all the way across the board. Where you watch any of the Disney movies or any of the movies that we watch nowadays, whether it's like Shrek or any of the Marvel movies, like they do a good job of gearing it to where it hits the adult demographic, but also the kids as well. So I think they go towards the kids because I mean that's really what the Jetsons is really trying to go all about. Because regardless of what they do, we as parents or we as adults are going to be like trying to grab our nephew or our sons or our daughters and being like, so you should check out we're going to go watch this movie because it it was our childhood, and they're gonna be like, Dad, that's so lame. Like,
It's almost feels like that you want kids to go with you just for so you could go see this movie. It's just like you're just gonna suffer. It's all about me today.
oh yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be an excuse. I'm gonna grab somebody else's kid. And I'm gonna be like, Yo, I'm gonna take your kid, and they're like, Nah, don't do that, guys. Don't take somebody else's kid like that.
Well, with that, let's go ahead and get into the casting, where Nam and I decided on our list who do we think would like to see be cast for this film and whatnot. So let's talk about the main person, the father of the family, George Jetson. And George is basically the breadwinner of the family. He works at Spacy Sprockets, where his main job is to press one button and one button only over and over and over again. And actually,
wait, that isn't Homer? Is that not Homer?
right. George
I didn't realize we were casting Homer.
I know, right? George just opened the door for everybody. Like, the job is easy, guys. It's just my fingers hurt. Which is really funny because, like, I swear, like, George is the only person that, like, works there. Because, like, you never see anybody, like, at the water cooler or talking, or people walking by, or well, maybe there've been a couple like talking about like something's going down at the factory, people running out or something like that, but you never see George really have conversation with other coworkers. I think he mostly has conversation with like more machines than anything else. If you got further, he'll talk to like more robots that Spacey brings in to help the company get better and everything like that. So
I was gonna say, Jeremy, man, the Jetsons is the future. It's ran by all AI. There's only one person doing the job because they have to have that quota. Mm-hmm. That's how it's gonna work nowadays. That's how it's gonna work in the future, guys. Is that there's got to be a quota for actual people who show up to work. And with us and how the pandemic panned out, where everyone works remotely. He's the only idiot that doesn't work remotely.
Right? Apparently, like, Wi-Fi and internet didn't really exist in that world in some sort of way. Because, it was that time. Like, no one thought that was going to be a thing. But other than that, George, he was a father at home. And he has to deal with some of the goofy stuff. And try to be a father to Judy and Elroy in their own way. One of my favorite episodes is where George takes Elroy to space camp, and him and the kids get kind of lost on a planet per se, and everything like that. So he's trying to be the best father he can be, and whatnot. So who do we cast for this? So when I was younger, my dream cast, my dream character was Jim Carrey at the time, because Jim Carrey was just so goofy and he was hilarious in a way. But now as I got older, I'm like, maybe Jim Carrey's a little too crazy for this role. George is a little bit more of like he's a character that's just like has to deal with unfortunate events that happen to him more than making the unfortunate. And I think the person that does a good job of dealing with awkward moments or dealing with it is probably Jason Bateman for me. And that's kind of like Arrested Development. Arrested Development, he was the person that has to he was the normal one trying to help the family with their problems and whatnot. And he has the best looks of dealing with awkward situations. And I always enjoy that about him. Even from like the movie like Game Night, he's just always just walking in, like just trying to figure out like, okay, what are we doing here? So I don't know. I thought Jason Bateman just has that look style for it. So, what's your thoughts?
I saw you put Bateman as a choice, and I was thinking to myself, that's not a bad choice. I can feel that. I can get into that one. I mean, however you want to make this movie or TV show. Actually, are we doing a movie or are we doing a TV show?
I would like to see a movie because I would like to see this on the silver screen because, like I said, like the Flintstones had two. I would just love to see this hit a screen at once. But I don't care. It could be a TV show too. But
no, it's cool. I was thinking the entire time when I did this, I was thinking it was going to be a movie. So like at least a one-off movie. And my question is like, can we get the A-listers? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. So.
But no, I do like the choice. I do like Bateman as a choice because he does have that kind of awkwardness where he can deal with the awkwardness, and he's proven that with Arrested Development. And I think that kind of tone works with this show, or at least works with this version of the show that you want to, or this version of the movie that you want to present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But for me, I ended up putting two choices because I wasn't quite sure which one I wanted to go with. Because first off, finding redheads to match the Jetsons is like virtually impossible to me. Mm-hmm. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I know there's.
Do you consider it red? I thought it was kind of like a brownish per se, but I can see red too. Yeah. I mean, not Judy. Jane definitely is a redhead. Yep.
But I ended up just kind of playing this off. I said Ed Helms. Now, Ed Helms is very popular for playing in The Office, the Hangover trilogies, as well as Vacation movie. Now, if you want to talk about someone who can deal with awkwardness and deal with certain situations and bad things happening to him, like Ed Helms is the guy. Mm-hmm. He's good at doing not only dry humor, but physical humor. Mm-hmm. I think he's got a wide range. The other person that I have and is a little bit more likely for me to see, but he's kind of a dark horse choice of mine, is Will Forte. Will Forte, for you guys, if you guys don't know, he did the voice in the Lego movie. He also did Last Man on Earth. And he also has done one of the movies that Jeremy and I will eventually get to talking about, MacGruber. The underrated MacGruber. But in this case, if I were to choose somebody, honestly, I think Ed Helms would have been my guy. Will Forte, I just think, is an underrated actor and somebody that's just hilarious every time we see him on screen. Mm-hmm. But if I really wanted to go goofy slapstick, I would go Will Forte. But for the purposes of what this movie would be for me, Ed Helms is definitely the guy because, like what you said, Jim Carrey is a little bit more physically out there, and I think Forte will be the same way as well. And George is just not that way. I mean, we can make him that way, but he's just not that way. So,
you know, it's interesting because like the difference between Bateman and Ed Helms is the fact that when Bateman's in an awkward situation, he always kind of fights awkward, weirdly enough. And that's what's interesting. Ed Helms, though, for example, for The Hangover, he's really good of trying to keep positive of any situation. And I see that in George Jetson, that any situation that he's in, he always try to find some positiveness out of it, even from his job to even at home. You know, especially when it comes to the dog. Like, he gets really annoyed by the dog, but he always tries really hard to find the positiveness at dealing with the situation. So Ed Helms is a really good choice for that. Especially you saw that in Vacation, too, where he's always trying to find something positive about any awkward situation, always trying to keep a smile the best way he can. So, yeah, that was a good choice. That was a good choice.
I mean, yeah, because if Seal can do it, or if Vin Diesel can do it, we can do it.
Yeah. So let's get to the wife, Jane. Jane Jetson is basically the homemaker, and just like George at work, press the button, Jane does the exact same thing at home, where she kind of just sits at home and presses a bunch of buttons. So she's doing the best work at home job, where she just presses a lot of buttons. So much, I believe, like in the first or second episode, she actually got finger cramps.
Yes.
Yes. So, but like the fact that some of these machineries can make dinner I don't know how that works, but the fact that she could press everything she needs and she has like a machine that can come out and just clean everything and all of this kind of stuff. and she's really there just kind of like just support George in any situation that she has. But one of my favorite episodes she's in is that she was upset about her looks because George got invited to a party, and it was a party with like beautiful women, and when Jane found out about it, she was not very happy. Now they found out that Spacy was at this party where George was going to be a judge at this Miss Universe contest. And what happened is that he got caught by his wife. His wife said no, so George ended up being the judge. And Jane decided that she wanted to go undercover as one of those pageant women to prove that she's still attractive to George. And I thought that was a really fun episode. It was really good because I think that really brought Jane out a little bit more spark instead of just, I'm just at home all the time and all this stuff. But at least you saw her go into showing more of like, she does have a personality and some characteristics about her. And that's one of the older episodes before she kind of took the back seat later in the later shows. And so, what's your thoughts based on what you've seen about Jane?
Jane was an interesting one, right? Because she seemed at first very much like what you were talking about, where she was just pressing the buttons and she was exercising her fingers. And that was literally the first episode. And I want to say TV mom. We're just going to say TV mom because, I mean, they're cartoons. But yeah, as a TV mom, for whatever reason, I found her more like a trophy wife when I initially watched it. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say that because, I mean, she's cute. She's very pretty. But, you know, she also lives in the future and is just pressing a button mm-hmm. like throughout that first episode. So I didn't see as much character on the episodes that I watched. And out of all the characters, truly speaking, there's one other person that you put on this list that I don't really remember all that much. Mm-hmm. Jane was probably one that didn't stand out as much to me. Mm-hmm. She seemed like a very typical like TV mom where they're more in the background than they are in the forefront. At least to me. Mm-hmm. At least I think like the 3 or 4 episodes I watched and a little bit of research that I did. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, like to me, I had this thought that she was someone who could do very awkward, also kind of not life of the party, but awkward, but as well as someone who is the backbone of the family. Mm-hmm. And that's what was going through my mind when I was doing it, is like someone who would be able to support George, because for the most part, I think a lot of the cliche like cartoons and TV shows is like there's the dad that ends up, you know, whether dealing with issues and problems, and then there's the wife who has to support and also kind of react to it mm-hmm. and be strong, but also caring for the family, but also have their own crises that they deal with. So that's kind of how I approached it, and that's kind of how I see Jane.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because the fact that if you really look closer, George and Jane remind me so much of Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore off the Dick Van Dyke Show.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And that's probably one of my favorite television shows of all time, based on the Nick at Night lineup and everything like that. But based on how far you got and where I got, if you remember watching Dick Van Dyke, you saw Laura, that Mary Tyler Moore plays as. It's a character that you saw her grow more and got developed more, and she got her own a lot more spotlights as she went. And I feel like that's what happens to Jane too. But you can tell it's more, of course, it's more about George because, you know, he's the breadwinner, and the same thing with Dick Van Dyke. He was the breadwinner, you know, and those two are very similar in that way. So, sadly enough, if this movie was made a long time ago, I would have put Mary Tyler Moore to play as Jane.
I was gonna say, if this movie was made a long time ago, I think Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore would be perfect for the two.
Yeah,
like, absolutely.
Yeah,
you wouldn't even have to make a whole movie. Just The Mary Tyler Moore Show. What you do is you do the edit, right, where it's like the Dick Van Dyke Show. Then you put a black thing across it, a black bar across it. Then you just put Jetsons.
Yeah.
And then add a kid and a dog. Add kids and a dog. So there you go.
So for me to play Jane, I think that we can't. Personally, for me, she has to be a character that can easily get a spotlight, because I think for this actress I picked, it's hard for her to be in the background. She gotta have to shine, and that's Elizabeth Bank. You probably know her. Well, first time I saw her actually was from Catch Me If You Can. She was a bank teller, and from there she definitely expanded more for like you could say like Charlie's Angels, for instance, the recent one that she made in direct. You can just look her up, but I thought based on the movies I have seen her do, she does have that homemaker look. Like when I was watching Catch Me If You Can, like she has that look of a homemaker, and then to see her hair kind of frizzle up and made up, because it's a sci-fi. People's hair is all weird up and crazy, right? So I could picture her with an interesting hairdo, with a nice outfit, playing kind of that role sassiness, and it would kind of feel like maybe have a little bit of a little twang to it, I guess, because I think she is Southern in some sort of way. But anyways, I don't know. I feel like that she can really do a good job making her shine out in that way. I've seen her do a lot of different roles, and I think she could pull it off. So
I got you. When I saw you put Elizabeth Banks, I thought that was an interesting choice. I was waiting for you to explain it to me. I mean, she obviously wasn't my first choice, and I mean, granted, our lists are completely different and won't be the same. Though we both knew each other's, or actually, I knew your picks ahead of time, so I avoided trying to stay away from your deals.
Right.
I think there was one character that you and I probably would have both equaled out, so I ended up going completely different out of it. And I will make fun of Jeremy once we get there.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting. When you put Elizabeth Banks, I sat there and I was trying to think about all the things that she's done before. Because I think she definitely has the look for it. Like that look. And she's such a talented actor, such a talented actor that I think she'll be able to pull off whatever we end up putting for her. But she's definitely an interesting choice.
Have you seen 30 Rock at all? Because she was in 30 Rock for a little bit, playing the girlfriend as a newscaster to Alec Baldwin's character. Have you ever chance had to watch 30 Rock?
No, I've never watched 30 Rock.
Okay.
But now that you said Tina Fey could work as Tina Fey could absolutely work as Jane as well too.
Okay.
Well.
Well, wait. If you're gonna do Tina Fey, then heck, that I think she has to do it with Steve Carell, in my opinion, because Date Night was pretty damn entertaining, and those two together would be great as a couple for this movie, if there's other choices.
And I was gonna say the same thing. Like when I was thinking about creating this movie, it's weird because a part of it was it's like, all right, so how can I look at these lead twos and think to myself, like, do they look good together, or do they look like they would actually work together? And it's like to me, there was a visual. Like I had to get the visual because I mean, in the cartoon, George Jetson is older than Jane, and then of course Jane says she's 33. I'm not going to sit there and look at anyone who's 33 because a lot of the actors don't generally play their age. But there is a distinct look between the two, because I would imagine that George is probably 10 years. It seems like he looks like he's about 10 years older,
give or take.
At least, because he looks like he's in his mid 40s, upper 40s to me.
He acts his age. Acts his age,
and she's in her early 30s. I'm just like, good for you, George. Good for you. Which I mean, he's got to be a lovable character for her to want to hook up with him like that, right? Either that or she's dated a bunch of young people who are in the future are kind of just stuck on video games and don't want to go out and actually meet people.
Which I'm drawing a blank. I don't know if there's ever been an episode how those two met, I want to say, but yeah.
We'll make a whole movie on this.
Okay.
No, so yeah, I think Elizabeth Banks would be an interesting choice. For me, Ed Helms, obviously he looks older than he really is. I mean, he's in his late 40s, but he seems like he could be a little older than that. I ended up choosing Zoe Deschanel to match up with him because, real quick, Zoe Deschanel, you guys may know her from the new girl in Trolls or the Hitchhiker's Guide, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Zoe Deschanel has a very distinct look. She has a very distinct voice and a very distinct kind of very cutesy, awkward acting that I think works for Jane because I kind of fits that young trophy wife in a way, but also being able to be strong and hold her own. But I don't know, my version of like the Mary Tyler Moore. I think you've nailed that one on the head. Like to me, I can't stop thinking the fact that the Jetsons would be Mary Tyler Moore and Dick Van Dyke.
Mm-hmm.
And I can absolutely see her play a very Mary Tyler Moore role, being very beautiful and as well as being that wife, that TV wife.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, I actually had Allison Hannigan from How I Met Your Mother and American Pie,
Mm-hmm.
as well as Buffy, but I ended up going with Zoe because I think Zoe has a very distinct look and a very youthful look, even though she's actually in her early 40s, which is crazy.
Yeah, because she doesn't look 40 at all.
No, she doesn't. She
Mm-hmm.
does not.
Mm-hmm.
She looks younger than I do. So I mean,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always keep forgetting she has a sister that was the main actress in Bone too. I always forget every single time.
I forget that too. Yeah, she does have a sister.
Mm-hmm.
She has a brother too, right? Or is it just a
I'm not
sister?
100% sure on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh,
Um, Go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, Zoe is an interesting choice. I can't put my finger on it or visualize her playing that. I think, like you said, she's awkward. I think she's bubbly sometimes in some
Mhm.
certain way. Um, she almost fits more like a Judy to me than a Jane. If Zoe was just slightly, I don't know if she could play that young, but if she was like say Elf young, like she was an elf, I think she could pull that off per se. But Jane, she has to me have to really just prove it to me that she can really pull it off because I always feel like Zoe's always been a character like I had to always do my characters always have to do their own thing. We always have to go against the wave, not with the wave. And I feel like she's the one that has to get George in the trouble than her kind of being the support of George's problems. I can't think of a movie where I see Jane in there, but I mean, look wise, yeah, I think she has the look for it, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with the look for sure, which is obviously why I chose her. I think from the New Girl, like if you watch episodes of the New Girl, I
Mm-hmm.
think you can see it eventually from there.
Okay.
And she wasn't really in that many movies, which is probably the reason why you may not see her as much. But she
Mm-hmm.
was in a handful.
Yeah.
But she definitely did a good job in the New Girl, and I think she fits that mold. At least she could do the TV wife aspect of things. The other choice I had was Kristen Shaw. She's from Bob's Burgers. She does the voice of Lois in Bob's Burgers. Last Man. She also did The Last Man on Earth and Bill and Ted's Face the Music. The only real reason why I chose her, she to me doesn't have as much of the look because she does kind of look a little bit older, but she has a comic, like a very comedic way about her. And the fact that her and Will Forte, were together, like the chemistry between the two on The Last Man on Earth, I enjoyed personally. And I see those two together, which obviously, if you watch The Last Man on Earth, they were together in that one. So I kind of took that and brought it over here. But that's really the only reason why I chose her. If I were to choose, it would really be Ed Helms and it would be Zoe Deschanel.
It's funny you said that because my other choice only because I think her personality fits it, but her looks doesn't. And I was thinking Kristen Wiig I think Kristen Wiig has the very personality of a Jane, but she does not have the look of a Jane. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking about the Bridesmaids ladies, like Maya Rudolph too, as well. Mm-hmm. Like I thought she would be interesting as well as a choice. But I mean, if we're making the movie, it's whatever we want, Jay.
Yeah, right. So let's get into the next. Let's get to the kids. So let's talk about Judy Jetson first. Judy Jetson, of course, is basically the teenager, the rebel that goes out, just wants to be a teen girl, wants to hang out with her friends, do all the things that girls do. She's trying to live that Barbie life and all that. She loves all the boys. One of my
when you say the Barbie life, make sure you drop the Aqua, I'm a Barbie girl. Just drop the clip right there and just stop the whole video. Drop it, a little clip. I'm a Barbie girl.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, sorry.
One of my favorite episodes, I don't know if you got to it, but it was the one where, God, it doesn't get more Dick Van Dyke than this. But the part where she wanted to go see this big all-star musical person, and George wouldn't let her, and she snuck in to go get it, and then George ended up sneaking in to go get her, and then he ended up being the drummer for him in this music video. But it's that song, I don't know if you saw it, but it's a weird song. I'll have to play the clip, but it's so freaking funny because it goes like oop, eep, oop, ah. It's that weird kind of like 60s style kind of thing, and I think it's because I remember it. It's because there was a singing contest, and if you send a song in there and it's a hit, they'll sing the song. And the reason why it got selected by accident because the wrong letter got sent because Elroy was writing a song and he was making up robot noises with his friends, and somehow something happened where it switched and they got the song. And so that's what the oop eep oop kind of thing happened. It's a funny episode. I think that brought up a lot of like who Judy is and whatnot. And so Judy is basically, she's just a girl that wants to live just the teen life, go out, have fun with her friends, listen to crazy music, drive her, what a teenage girl wants to do, how they portrayed it back in that time. How far did you get to Judy, and what's your thoughts about her?
Judy to me is the show itself is very cliche. The setting is what makes it different, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's in the future. To me, Judy was very much a Clueless. Like, she would be Clueless, Mean Girls, like that mold of character to me. Mm-hmm. And that's how I see her, as a very typical teen who's trying to live her life, who wants to do and be part of the cool crowd, but has to deal with parents that aren't cool, which is like every story, mm-hmm. but in a futuristic way. And that's how I see Judy.
Okay.
And I think the choices that we have for Judy both kind of fit the mold and are kind of fun. Except for yours. I'm going to argue yours.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to argue yours.
So Chloe Grace Moretz, I believe that's how you say her name. Yeah. So it is interesting, right? I think, honestly, first of all, I think she has to look for it. Because I was trying to picture, because let's be honest here, Judy has the most interesting look at everyone else, right? She has the most sci-fi look with her ponytail that's more upwards to the more of the red dress. She's very spontaneous. I seen Chloe play in 30 Rock, where she was a very young girl, and she kind of has that bubbly kind of look. That she also has a look that she can be invicted, like she could be very vengeful if you really look at it. And then I saw her. No, I'm serious. Am I wrong? I'm like, she does. And I guess what changed it was the Tom and Jerry movie, which I never saw the Tom and Jerry movie. I saw the trailer for it, and when I was looking at her, the way she was acting and all this kind of stuff, I feel like that I could see her kind of pull off that style if she really tried. I know not a lot of her movies she ever played like a bubbly kind of person on there, but I don't think it's impossible that she couldn't do it. The only reason I picked her too, because I think she would probably match pretty well with my Elroy character, because I want to see how those two would work together, even though those two never worked together in the movie. They never worked together in the movie. But I would like to see how they would combine with that. And the fact of working with Bateman, for my person, I think that works really well, because if they want to make Judy more rebel or more vengeful to like get daddy back for something for not letting her doing it in that way. I think Chloe can pull that off, and I think Bateman can play off of that. And so
No, that's fair. I don't actually have a real big problem with your choice. I find it an interesting choice because I can see the look. I mean, and as far as all the actors that we name, they all have wide enough ranges that I think they'll be able to take that role and do whatever they want to do with it. And it just depends on what kind of style of movie we want to do. So let me get that one off. But secretly, what you're saying to me is that Judy Jetson is like, you know, in the future, the superhero of that world. That she goes and she John Wicks everyone. This is what Chloe does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're telling me the little girl who grew up, don't get me wrong, she's grown up from Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
Like, German wants to put a little bit of violence in this movie. I get it. Like, Judy in Jeremy's movie doesn't want to actually live a normal teenage life. She's sneaking out not to go to concerts. She's sneaking out to murder people.
Sure, why not? It's the future.
That's every time I hear Chloe's name, or I actually want to see her, that's the only thing I ever think about is just Kick-Ass, the little girl from Kick-Ass. I'm just like, dang, she grew up to be a young girl that is, you know, murdering people. It's like, my God. So Jason Bateman is like trying to keep her from actually like killing people. So she's like that psychopath that's like hidden there. Jeremy, you have a very dark version of the Jetsons.
Yeah, and the twist will be that there was a chip in her head the whole time, controlling her. It's the future. Yep.
No, I think she'll be able to do it. She's definitely an interesting choice. Wasn't my first choice. When I saw that, I was a little bit surprised by your choice, to be honest with you. And because I really have that clueless, I think that clueless vibe when it comes to Judy. Like, absolutely have that clueless vibe. And of course, naturally, I think if we were to make a choice for it,
I'm with you 100% what you're going to say, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, Alicia Silverstone.
Oh, yeah, hands down. Hands down. If it was made before, yeah, hands down.
But, you know, I think we're looking from the lens of 2022. And, you know, not to knock on Alicia Silverstone, she is still very beautiful and still looks very young, but not young enough to play this role. And I think Chloe definitely has the stature and definitely has the looks. And I know she's in her, like, mid to late 20s. But she absolutely could pull this off. My two choices are both from Cobra Kai. And that is Daniel LaRusso's daughter, Mary Mosier, and Cobra Kai's rebel, young Peyton List. And for me, actually, Peyton List is my number one choice. I think she definitely fits the look, like a very young.
He said Chloe's bad
very
for me.
Like edgy. She has an edge to her. Obviously, if you guys watch Cobra Kai, she has a very strong edge to her and can be very mean girl-ish if she really needs to. But I think she could easily fall into that non-rebel look and be the Clueless, like the new version of Clueless, if we really have to. And she definitely has the look for it. But it's interesting if you were to take Peyton and Mary's characters in Cobra Kai and just kind of mesh them together, that would be like the perfect Judy Jetson to me. But as far as like looks go, I think Peyton definitely goes with the same looks, and I think she could easily be like Ed Helms and Zoe De Chanel's like daughter.
Okay.
So that's the reason why I went that way. I like Mary. I really do, as far as like a person goes, but I think she fits more of like that Will Forte, Kristen Shaw, like family dynamic. And that's assuming that everyone has brown hair. Yeah. But of course, Judy's got white hair, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, she has.
Which is definitely different. She probably dyed it, so
she had to. Thing is that she had to. She has to be a national.
We can do whatever redhead. We want. So we're just gonna say they dyed their hair white. So
it's that rebel.
Peyton's a natural blonde, or Peyton's a blonde, so that fits closer. Yeah.
Peyton is that's someone I had never thought of ever on my list. I never thought of her at all. But I guess it's possible. It's almost funny, like both of them could be in this movie, but one of them has to be like the best friend of whoever it is to Judy, because I think Judy always if you're gonna put Judy, in this movie, Judy, I believe, has to be friends. Like, if we're gonna do this, let's do it the Clueless way. She has to have a crew, right? Yeah. She has to have a crew that she goes around driving around with and whatnot. So, and hell, if you really want to just have fun with it, hell, you could probably make the whole Judy's team part of the Cobra Kai, right? Even the boy she's interested could be someone from Cobra Kai. I mean, they're all close around the same age. I think they can pull it off. But no, that's an interesting one. I don't really have too much input about Peyton List, because only Cobra Kai is the only thing I know, and I think a lot of people only know her for that. And I'll have to see what she can really do. But yeah, I really don't have a strong opinion about Peyton List. So
I don't know. It's cool. I get it, man. I get it. It's cool. I stumped you. I won.
All right. Got this. Yeah. I will say though, like I don't know how you picked Peyton, but you were intrigued by Chloe. I'm like, both of them kind of similar, and they could both be murderers.
They're similar. I think it's absolutely the looks. That's the part that I was just like, if I imagine these two as the parents, who would be the child that I think could play that role? And that, granted, it doesn't really matter all that much, but because it's the future and it should be inclusive. But to me, it's just like, if I had a picture in my head, what can we go with?
Okay.
That was it.
Okay. All right, let's get to the son, Elroy Jetson. He is basically the smart kid in the room. He's the one that likes building things, but he's still a kid at the end of the day. He mostly just builds stuff for fun, and he's quite a genius for a kid. I think that George sometimes kind of can't comprehend how smart he is, and sometimes I feel like Elroy has to dumb himself down for George, for his dad and whatnot. And he's the one that has the most interesting stories, along with Astro the dog. And a lot of people probably forget the little Furby moon rock little creature that's like, me, the little, like, I don't know. Do you remember the furry little guy with the when he jumps, he has the long legs that look like springs, and he jumps around and everything like that. Yeah. So if you got further on, Elroy's the one that gets a lot more interesting side characters that join him in his little crew and whatnot. But he does look to George as more of, like, I guess, as a father, of course, but that's probably where it stops at. I don't think he looked for him for, like, smartness or anything like that. And like you said, like, this is a cliche family, but Elroy's probably the one that stands out different from everybody else, right? Because he's the boy genius, and he's probably the one that influenced probably a lot of cartoons later down, like Dexter, like Dexter's Laboratory and whatnot. So, any thoughts on Elroy before we cast him?
No, absolutely. You hit it on the dot. But when you say Dexter, I was thinking like Dexter.
Well, I said Dexter's Laboratory. Killer. Yeah.
The serial killer murderer. not the laboratory guys.
I wish I'm disappointed in you, because Dexter's Laboratory before Dexter, so you should automatically know.
No, Dexter's Laboratory was the first thing that came to mind when I was thinking about, like, who I would cast in this role. And I think that's the hard thing too, is looking for child actors, and just, at least for us and Jeremy and I, the exposure of child actors. I think for us, we don't really pay attention to them as much because they grow up so fast. Everyone grows up so fast. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember little Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe back in the day. But now I see Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe now. I'm just like, he's still little, but he's a lot older now.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like just yesterday. And then when we see celebrities within our range that we grew up watching, we're just like, wow, they look so old now.
Mm-hmm.
So old, except for like 4 people. Mario Lopez being one of them. He's a vampire.
Mario Lopez. Jesus.
So anyway, but who is your Elroy?
So I picked Logan Kim, a.k.a. Podcast from Ghostbusters. I think that I could see Elroy doing the same thing in his own way. He could be a podcaster, kind of like have his own recording with some high tech or something to go around. I think with kind of like his wardrobe and the color change, I think he can look spot on like Elroy. I think that Logan Kim has the kind of the comedian chops as a kid to be funny. I think he could be the funny, wise ass of the family. Thinks he's kind of the smartest person in the room. And I think in this movie, there's going to be chaos going to happen. Elroy's going to be the one that will probably have to save the family because how smart he is and thinks ahead before the situation. It's almost kind of like the Inspector Gadget kind of thing where he is Penny and Asteroid is Brain. And they're the ones like really saving the day while George gets all the glory in some shape or form like that. But based on Ghostbusters, I really liked his personality, what he did with that, playing off of I forget what the name of the female actress that he acts with in the movie of Ghostbusters, but based on his way, I think that he could play off of Judy, my Judy, Chloe, pretty well. And I think that when they bicker back and forth, I can see that, and I can see Elroy or Logan Kim, I could picture him being really scared of Chloe because, the whole revenge, scary, kick-ass mentality. And so I was really picturing, could those two have good banter back and forth? Because, just like the Jetsons movie, the animation one, Judy and Elroy had to work together on certain parts together. So that's my pick.
I think you had probably the best pick. It's easy to see him play that, especially since he played almost the exact same character in Ghostbusters Afterlife. Mm-hmm. So I do completely agree with you there. I went with Archie Yates. Now, Archie Yates is in the newest Home Alone that was reimagined, remade, or the sequel to, whatever you guys want to call it. To be fair, my choice with Archie Yates is more what I saw, like, briefly, because no one should ever watch the new Home Alone movie. I watched a bunch of, I would say, reviews on it, and horrible reviews. And you could check out, Pitch Meetings, they did a great review on it. And you can check out some of the other reviews that they have. There's a lot of YouTube content creators out there that did a really good job explaining it, but definitely fits that mold. I mean, you wanted to take a very smart kid. Granted, he did kind of play more of a bully in Home Alone, but if you want to take a smart kid and just give him that look, he definitely fits the look. He's still young. He's got the glasses, which is very cliche. Because once you put glasses on people, you look smart. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
I don't have really too much to say on him, but he has the look. I think for most kids, they could probably play that role pretty easily. I don't know much. I don't remember as much of Elroy as you do. Mm-hmm. But I think of Dexter's Laboratory all the time, and I feel like he can just easily fit the role. At least he has the looks for the role.
And there's no limit of how they want Elroy to be. He could be like a Dexter. Because, like, in the show, he's not quite too inventive. Or they pulled him back. Because, like, Dexter, he always has a brand new invention almost in every episode. Elroy doesn't really always have a new invention in every episode, but they could lean on it a little bit harder, as he's the one that just makes the craziest gadgets. Hell, he could be the one that can be in charge of helping some of the gadgets that happen in the house that Jane presses the button for. There's a possibility what Elroy can do. So be interesting in what he can do with that. Like you, I had never seen the movie. I don't know too much about the kid, but I mean, with the looks, I can see that, and maybe he could pull it off. It's one of those I have to see what he can do in the moment. And so, okay, now we're done with the human family. Let's get into the non-human family. Let's talk about Rosie. Rosie is a robot where I feel like in this world in the future, every family, every person should have a robot in some sort of way. And it feels like robots in this world felt like getting a new car. Like for them to go get one, it was a bit of a budget to get Rosie. Like there was other choices, but they decided to go Rosie. It was fit around their budget per se. And let's be honest here. If I'm correct, in the first couple of episodes, Rosie was not the best. Well, she was the best. She was a really good maid, actually. She was very spiky. She had an attitude. she basically reminds you of the Brady Bunch. She was that maid, right? So, especially in the episode where Spacy got invited for dinner, and that's when, Rosie didn't like the disrespect that she was saying to the family. So, she dumped that upside down pineapple cake on Mr. Spacey's head. Do you remember that episode?
Yeah. That was within, I think that was the first episode.
Yeah. Well. And Spacey was like, man, this is the best damn cake I ever had in my life. You don't get rid of her. So much that Rosie felt like that she didn't be part of his family, which it made me wonder, like, where are you going to go? You ran off. Like, where do robots go when they don't belong anywhere? I don't know. That was always a funny thing to me. But Rosie was funny. She was very spiky, very homeful. She was the one that kind of, I guess, would you say she's the one that had the little, like, what's the word I'm looking for? The more of the punchlines, the more hits on certain moments per se. But maybe
she was a smartass.
Yeah, I don't know if you would say if she was the one that was the glue that held the family together, but she was. I feel like that she was a character that came at the right times on a lot of stuff for what she did.
She was very much what's his name from Fresh Prince, the butler.
Oh, Jeeves. They call him Jeeves.
Is it
George Jeffrey? It's Jeffrey, but they say Jeeves. Yeah.
She's very much Jeffrey. She has an attitude when she needs to, and can be like really like out of there, really defensive towards her family, but also takes care of them.
Yeah, and even later on on the later series, like think in the 80s ones, she actually kind of had a love interest with a janitor robot, and basically the janitor robot belonged to the superintendent of their complex. So like Rosie ends up getting more of a interesting personality trait of like all this like a love interest and whatnot. So she's just not just a maid, but just always having one-liners and whatnot. She actually
a little bit more character development, right?
Yeah, she gets more character development. So for me, it's all about the voice because she's going to be CG. The rest of the cast is going to be voices anyways, right? Well, not all of them, but But for this rest of this family, yeah. I picked Jennifer Tilly. Jennifer Tilly. Jennifer Tilly is not that big of an actress. She's probably, a lot of people, she's going to be known for the Chucky series, The Bride of the Chuckies, all that kind of stuff. But I think the one that stood out to me was Liar Liar, where Jim Carrey's character represented her for like, I think like a murder case or something like that. But I liked her voice, and her voice to me, I think fits that sassiness for that. And that's really it. I mean, that's what mainly I was looking for. Just seeing like, does her voice fit that? And I think she can do that voice. She can do a really fun voice.
No, and I completely agree with you. I listed Jennifer Tilly there too as well. She's also known for 7 Days to Vegas and also the movie Bound as well. Now she also does a voice for Family Guy, which is where you get it. But let's talk about her. Let's talk now about her iconic voice. But let's talk about Rosie's voice. Because Rosie's voice, when you actually watch it, is a little bit lower than what your normal tone would be, and I wouldn't say raspier, but
kind of like a Roseanne. Huh? Does it remind you of Roseanne?
I wouldn't say Roseanne.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't say Roseanne, but there is a robotic quality to it, very auto-tuned. So with that being said, T-Pain is my choice.
T-Pain.
No, I ended up choosing somebody that's known for their voice too, because besides Jennifer Tilly, I also ended up choosing somebody that was known for her voice too. And I know she hasn't done any acting, but I see that deep, a little bit lower voice, a little bit unique, as well as an attitude, none other than the musician Pink. I think it'd be fun for her to do something, just a voice, not necessarily see her act, but I'm sure she could probably pull it off. Have a little bit of attitude, have that a little bit lower but kind of raspier voice, and you can auto-tune it just a tad bit so it gets that robotic twang to it. But Rosie, for me, Pink, the musician.
That is an odd choice. I honestly can't see Pink doing this at all. because I don't know, like her voice, I don't know. I just don't feel like she fits this very well for me. But it's voice acting, so like anybody can do anything. And
she's done voice acting. She's done a movie with voice acting too.
Oh, okay, okay. You'll have to let me know afterwards what movie she did, so I'll have to go listen to her. But since you said like we're putting this filter of this robotic voices, I mean, I guess it can work for that way. I guess it's on her how she wants to bring out that character. But I guess I have to wait and kind of just see it happen to really believe it. But I'm probably for Pink for now. So
well, Jeremy, get your own choice, man. Don't be stealing mine. Have fun.
Okay, let's do some of the cast member. Oh, we forgot the last one. We forgot the dog. So the dog later on gets adopted into the family that is Astro, which he is the sci-fi Scooby-Doo. Basically, they both roll their R's just fine. And you added this to this, and I forgot that Astro can talk. I just forgot about that. Astro is just a dog, but he can talk, and he's basically the dog that he belongs to Elroy, but he's really more bestie with George. Like he really loves George a lot, and you probably know it from the famous scene at the very end of the credits, or even Family Guy, where he's walking the dog on this little treadmill outside the place, which that's a dangerous idea. I don't know why that's created. And George gets trapped over and over again, wrapped up when Astro was chasing a cat, and he says, "Jane, stop this crazy thing," or whatnot. Family Guy does a good job for the follow-up of that. I honestly respect that. So let's switch it. Let's switch this last one up and go with yours first, and why. And I think I know why, only because of this. But let's see if you could change my mind. You could switch it up on me. Why did you pick this person?
Very famous actor, A-lister, action-packed. I think you guys can probably figure it out. Mostly because he's been in movies like Fast and the Furious series, and you automatically figured that out once I said that, and Guardians of the Galaxy. There's a couple other movies that you may have seen him in, Triple X.
The Iron Giant.
Iron Giant.
Yep, he was the giant. He was the
machine. Because Ed Helms stated in Vacation Movie that if Vin Diesel can do it, then he can do it. And that means that Vin Diesel can do anything, including playing the voice of Astro. And honestly, that's more of a joke choice because, I think it would just be funny to have him play a voice of a dog. Because either I go with Vin Diesel here or his rival.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, I was kidding. That's not his rival.
Or Vin Diesel's rival, the person that he had beef with throughout the Furious series, and also plays the voice of a dog. In his newest movie where he plays Superdog, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So either Vin Diesel or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I think either one of those would be kind of fun to play the voices here. But I mean, it's not beneath Vin Diesel to play a voice where he just says, 3 letters or 3 words.
I would have chose The Rock more. I think The Rock would be funnier just to see how he would roll his R's.
The Rock was the other choice, and there's a reason behind that, but I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay. I wanted a pro at this. I wanted to see, like, this guy has so much range. I mean, if he decided to leave The Simpsons, I don't know what they would do. This guy just has the range, and I want to see him, see if he can pull this off, because he's really good of like mimicking people really well. I've seen him do it before, and that's Hank. I want to make sure I get his name right. Hank Azara, and yeah, him to play a lot of roles on The Simpsons, from sadly no longer Apu to Chief Wiggums, the policeman. A lot of characters on that show, and him doing that would be pretty interesting to see how he would pull that off. But that's it. That's it. So
you didn't want to go with
Seth MacFarlane.
yeah, Seth MacFarlane or Jay Farrow. No.
No. I want the classic. I want the classic one. Gotta get the classic. Okay, so now we're done with the family. We got the last two characters that we have that are basically rivals of each other, but they do play a big influence on George because one of them is his boss, and that is sorry, I don't know why I draw a blank. Yeah, Mr. Spacely. I don't know what his first name is, but Mr. Spacely for Spacely Sprockets. And I think automatically when I picked this role, I think it was a duh, and only because like he could still do it. He looks the part to me automatically, and it would be a missed opportunity. And if he doesn't do it, that's fine. I don't really care. But it's just the fact that his name has to be mentioned at one point, and that's Danny DeVito. Like Danny DeVito just looks like Spacely, like hands down, and he has the attitude like what Mr. Spacely would have, from the yelling, getting upset, and everything. You see him in so many films. Mainly what I would see him is Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he just really goes nuts. And I think I could see that for him. And I think he's just an easy win for that. And if you don't, watch the Jetsons and then watch Davey DeVito again, and you will understand why they're just a match made in heaven. And I think Nam would agree with that, which he had to like, well, I got to think of an alternative if they don't get Danny DeVito.
Well, I mean, yeah, no, I completely agree. I ended up thinking Danny DeVito too, because naturally is very short, has that kind of look, the receding hairline, could grow the mustache, has that same, I want to say, characterization, because Mr. Spacely is very much, can have a very stern way about him, but also be nice and caring. And so being able to bounce between the two is seeing like that boss, like Danny DeVito, to me fits that role. Because if you guys watch the old TV shows like on Nick at Night, like Jeremy and I have referenced, like Taxi, like very much hits that kind of like note. I ended up choosing someone completely different because I, being an Asian minority, thought to myself, why not include more minorities in this movie? So I chose the brother and not Jeremy, which is crazy.
Thanks.
No, but I also wanted to have fun with this because the next character we'll talk about, I don't really remember too much about. But in my mind, I wanted someone who could be really rough, but also kind of have somewhat of a heart. And it's from Bad Santa is the reason why. Like I imagine this character from Bad Santa. And I bring it into it because he can be really rough and stern, and I think it would just bring such a different level. And and Mr. Spacey does have that little man syndrome. And Tony Cox, to me, plays that role really well, and I think would bring something different, like a different like vibe, a different like feel to the movie, to the actual show. Like that little man who can be nice, but also you know that when he drops that attitude, like it's gonna be something.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tony Cox is my choice there.
Yeah, no, Bad Santa is a great example of that because you can see that. Minus, you got to keep it PG. Because Tony Cox is he's hilarious when he's in his R form, right? But him holding back, you have to see what he can really pull off in that. But yes, I can see that because just the way Tony Cox the way he presents himself already comes off like he is just not going to be the happiest person right now. He is just mad about it. He always walks like he's mad. Like I never seen him walk like just generally happy. Anytime he walks around, he is always upset. Looks always upset. I can ideally picture that. I don't know why it slipped my mind. But he could do a wonderful like follow up, or hell, even like he could be like like the boss, like his George is like underling to Spacely coming through and all this stuff. George,
yeah, and that's what I was gonna say is like his dynamic with George Jetson would be hilarious.
Yeah, no, that's a really good pick. Yeah, I can definitely see him do that very well, especially like if they play off the first episode of the Jetsons where he's in the dinner, just all these bad things happen to him and he just loses it at the dinner table or something like that. And the fact, like I said, you didn't get far enough to meet his wife, but just to see like him and his wife get at it would be just hilarious. I think anybody getting at it with Tony Cox is a hilarious conversation regardless, because Tony he's just really good at playing off people. So yeah, no, that's a wonderful choice. I like that. So now the next character you say you don't know too much about, but he does play an important role for this because he is part of the rivalry of Space Sprockets, and that's Spencer Cockwell's. They are the rivals so much that in later episodes they actually tried to sabotage each other's companies in some sort of way. They end up having a war against each other. And the funny part is you don't have a George Jetson representing on that side to go against George. It's just always been those two. And sometimes George has to go over there and help out. I think one time, I believe, Cockwell actually offered George a job to go over there and work for him at one point, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. And Spacey wasn't going to have it because apparently he's the only employee there, so he needs George for some reason because no one else can press the button more than George. But regardless, though, I picked J.K. Simmons. I think J.K. Simmons has the look for it. I think he could really have that fun uproar against him. He's that guy that kind of looks like he already judged you before you even know it. He already kind of like he has that look of like you are beneath him. And I think that's what I get when I watch the Jetsons. Of Cockwell always thinks that he's always smarter than Spacely because Spacely's always been the hothead and Cockwell's always been just the keep the calm. He gets more angry internally. He doesn't really show it out that much, but Spacely's the only one I think can bring it out of him most of the time. But J.K. Simmons, for people that don't really know, now he never really starred in any films that I can really think of, but he plays a lot of side roles. So like for instance, like if you've seen the new movie The Tomorrow Wars, he plays the father of Chris Pratt's character. Further from Terminator Genesis, Juno, he plays the father in there. And of course, he plays a lot of the insurance. I think it's the insurance commercial, I believe, if you know the one I'm talking about, Nam. Mm-hmm. But it's we are something, that kind of commercial, and his voice just I think fits it really well of like affirmative and everything. So yeah, that's why I think he could play this.
So J.K. Simmons, to me, the one that you didn't say and what everybody I think really knows him from is Spider-Man as J.K.
I totally forgot about that. I totally forgot about that.
That was immediately what I thought of as Jonah Jameson.
I totally forgot about him.
The newspaper, the guy that is very much
Send me your hate on this one now for me.
Yeah, so make sure you drop the hate at KN Tran. You guys see that? I did a Joker reference, right? I switched the two. Anyways.
No, that's
like,
you're
really not going for Rachel here.
Right. Totally forgot he played Jameson. Oh my gosh, I'm so upset about that because like that should have been the start right there. That's Cockwell's right there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that should have been your start. I was waiting for it because I thought you were saving it for the last, like the bam, the knockout punch. But then you didn't drop it, Jeremy.
No. I'm glad you. See, that's why you're there. You're there to pick me up when I'm trying to go down.
So, like I mentioned before, I don't really know Cogwell much. I knew Cogwell was the opposite of Spacely as far as the CEO is concerned, and I'd imagine Cogwell was probably a little bit nicer than Spacely. Mm-hmm. But Spacely is nice in his own right, too, as well. He just has moments of being very stern and very much of a leader or a boss, but definitely a hot hit. Now, in my mind, when I casted this person, I was thinking to myself, all right, so it's 2022 now. We're talking about the future. You're going to have like the older what I will say, and very much like a Will Smith thing, which seems to be a bad thing to say nowadays. But there's the new hotness and the old and busted. New hotness, old and busted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spacely is the old and busted. And now in this generation, you see young CEOs, up and coming CEOs who are running businesses. None other for me on this choice would be the fun interactions between the actual Tony Cox, Mr. Spacely, and Cogwell. And the smart assery. Like, I was thinking to myself, who could play off of each other that would be really fun, but also have a very youthful look, and also kind of have the small man's complex, but be taller than Mr. Spacely, which is even more fun. I chose Kevin Hart. Now, for most people, Kevin Hart, you guys know him as a very talented comedian. But for those who need to watch his, IMDb is Jumanji, the newer Jumanjis. He did the voice of Life of Pets, The Secret Life of Pets, and literally every movie with The Rock. And which is why I would choose Rock as the voice of Elroy in this aspect, right? Because not Elroy,
Astro.
Mm-hmm. I would choose Rock as the voice of Astro, because wouldn't that be hilarious that The Rock would actually play a very low key role where he's just spitting out more nonsense and making more barking sounds and stuff like that instead of actually talking, and then having Kevin Hart just do the media runs with him and just grill him for at least I talk in the show more than you. But yeah, no, I think Kevin Hart. I think the dynamic between Kevin Hart and Tony Cox, where you got the old and busted and the new upstart CEO of Cockwell, I think it would be fun.
I think the interesting thing about if in that direction for Kevin Hart, the story of the plot of the movie could be where Cogswell could be a new business to rival Space Sprockets, and then that's when you introduce Kevin Hart's character as this young and upcoming person to go against the old and crankiness of that. So that can definitely be something to influence in this movie, because I think one of the key things that I would look for this movie is the fact that we're seeing this character George dealing with stuff that's happening in the family as the family's trying to grow and trying to do their own thing, along with the job going against this rival company, going against them in this rival thing. So there could be a lot of things that can go on with that, especially, yeah, you're right, Kevin Hart and Tony Cox would be funny to banter because they never been on screen together.
No, they had. And Kevin Hart definitely has a way about him where he could play that that sly, cunning guy that'll be I'm going to try to take George away from this guy. Mm-hmm. And play that two-faced character where it's kind of fun at first, but also be yeah, I'm going to secretly behind you, try to take this guy from you. I think it would be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the mentality I can think of is the ride along with Ice Cube. That one there could be something of that mentality of I got to prove to y'all that I could run this company. I can prove to y'all that you guys can't be the only ones making all the money and stuff like that. So much I would love to see how Kevin Hart would try to sabotage Spacey Sprockets. Yeah. And I think that would be fun. I think it'd be funny for both of them, because how funny would it be to see Tony Cox at Cogswell roping around with George, trying to figure out how to sabotage everything, and then Kevin Hart just losing his mind in everything like that. I think it would just be a fun battle. So yeah, that can work. Yeah. So, okay. Well, that is our cast for the Jetsons, but we'd like to know who you would like to cast for the Jetsons. That is George, Jane, Judy, Elroy, Astro, Rosie, Spacely, and Cogswell. We would love to hear it. So leave a comment down below and just tell us, who do you think could do the roles, and what else would you like to see this movie happen? Would you like to see it sometime in this year 2000? But with that, I want to thank everybody for enjoying our company as we brought you to the future of this classic movie that I want to see. But these are more I would like to see. If you do like this and you want to see more ideas of us taking old shows or taking other properties and seeing what we can cast them, let us know down below also. We would love to hear that, as we're part of the In-Game Boss program, Network Game, and other variety shows. So we have tons of other great shows on this network that you can find on the YouTube page, so please check it out. And we will... Now, anything you want to add before I wrap this up? Okay, awesome.
No, I'm good.
Well, awesome. With that, we'll see you next time. Da, 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 da.